Hi, this is Graphing Quadratics 2. If you haven't seen my first of my Graphing Quadratics videos, I strongly recommend you do that because I'm going to move a little bit faster in this one because I don't want to repeat on the same smaller topics. So we're going to graph y equals negative 2x squared plus 7. So again, you want to go to the y equals button. That's what we can do on a graphing calculator. Type in our negative 2x squared plus 7. Now, if you want to graph that, you hit graph, and it shows up. Now, the goal is this is nice to have a graphing calculator, but we're going to pull the information from here so we can do it by hand. It's a great resource, but we're not going to let it do everything. So the first thing I want is a table of values. To do that, you're going to hit second, and we need to go to the table. Now, what we're looking for is I want repetition here. I want to see it kind of mirror each other. The first number and the y value should match the last. The second one matches the second from the bottom. Third, so on and so forth. So I want to find that repetition. So if I scroll down, that doesn't really look like it. If I go this way, oh, I think I'm starting to see some numbers repeat right here. So I have negative 11, negative 11, negative 1, negative 1, 5, 5, and 7 in the middle. So I'm going to copy this down onto my paper. So I'm going to have negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Should have a negative 11, negative 1, a 5, a 7, a 5, a negative 1, a negative 11. So repetition going on there, okay? So what I'm going to do is, once I have that, let's transfer this over to our paper. So I'm going to go negative 3, 1, 2, 3. Negative 11 is just off the graph. I'm going to put it there just in case. Negative 2, negative 1. Negative 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 7, 1, 5, 2, negative 1, 3, negative 11. I'm going to trace that with the pen and make my parabola. I like to take it all the way to the edge of my graph paper there. Now, the key thing I'm looking for there is, does this graph match what was in my calculator? Very, very similar. It might look a little bit different because the window here is a little bit more wider and taller, wider than taller, where this is a balanced width and height. So next thing I need is I need my vertex, which again is where kind of the two legs of this parabola meet. That peak point, which is here, which is 0, 7. The other way you can find that is it's the center of that repetition there. Then we have the axis symmetry, also known as your line of symmetry. And if I had to draw on a line of symmetry for this parabola, it would go right down the middle through the vertex, and that's always going to happen. And it goes through, and what I talked about last video is this number showing up all the time. So that equation for the line of symmetry, axis symmetry, is x equals 0. And that is, again, no coincidence that the 0 are showing up there. So it's going right through the middle, right through x equals 0. So what's kind of new with this one that I want to hit on, because a lot of that right there should be repetition from the first quadratic video, is increasing and decreasing. So how we do this again is just like you read. You trace along the graph and move from left to right. So I'm starting on the left side here and I'm going up. So I'm increasing on the left side, and then I get to my vertex, and I come down, which is starting to decrease. So I increase and then decrease. So we're going to write an inequality that represents for what x values are we increasing and for what x values are we decreasing. Well, in reference to the vertex, it was on the left side that we were increasing. So we need x's less than, well, what x value is this? On the left side of what x value are we increasing? Well, it's to the left of 0. So we need all the x values less than 0 is where we're increasing. And then for decreasing, it's on the right side, which is the greater than side. So we need all x's on this right side bigger than 0. So x is greater than 0. And again, notice that 0 is showing up all 4 places. So I'm going to show you one more example of, well, what happens if this is moved around. It's not a 0 there. So one more equation here. I'm going to go through it pretty quick. So again, I want to graph this. So I'm going to go to y equals. We're going to type in x squared minus 2x minus 8. We can graph that to get a good idea of what we want on our paper. And it looks like it's still a parabola a little bit to the right, so we should have that on our graph. I want the table there, so if we hit second table, again, we're looking for where do those values repeat. Right now I have 7, -5, not repeating, but I do see a -5, -5 there. So if I scroll down a little bit, notice I have 0, 0, -5, -5, -8, -8, -9 in the middle. So I found that repetition I want, so I'm going to copy this to my table on my paper. So I have -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Should have a 0, 0, -5, -5, -8, -8, and -9 in the middle. Need to transfer all this information over to my graph paper. So I have -2, 0, put a point, -1, -5, put a point, 0, -8, 1, -9, 2, -8, 3, -5, 4, 0. And again, take that, stretch it all the way to the edge of the graph. And this is just what we saw in the graph, a parabola a little bit to the right. So if we look at the vertex, it's this tip point right here, which is 1, -9. Now notice it's the center of my table there. It is the vertex of my graph. So if I want an axis of symmetry, that's my line of symmetry, that's going to go right down the middle. And I want the equation for that. We're going through x at the x-axis at 1. So we're going to have x equals 1. Now notice the 1, those match up. That should always, always, always happen. So then we just have to talk about increasing and decreasing. If we trace along, we're coming down on the left side, and we're going up on the right side. So we're increasing when x is greater than, but we're no longer on the greater side of 0 because the center of this is now at 1. So we want all x's bigger than 1, which would be all the numbers to the right here. All x is bigger than 1 to increase. And then decreasing, we came down on this left side, so we want x is less than on the left side of x being 1. Notice 1, 1, 1, 1. So that is increasing, decreasing, vertexes, axis of symmetry, and that is graphing quadratics.